Good afternoon, Rabbi. The question arises, now we have the Chag Shavuot coming upon us very soon. So a lot of people want to know several things about this holiday. Number one, the question is asked, right, regarding the custom to eat dairy foods, halavi, during Chag Shavuot. There is such a custom like that in most of the Jewish people, amongst most of the Jewish people. Question is, where does it come from, right? What's the source for this idea to eat dairy foods on Chag Shavuot? The truth is, right, usually on Chagim, on the festivals, we eat meat and we drink wine. This is the mitzvah. Why? Because it says in the Gemara, there is no simcha without eating meat and drinking wine. So therefore, since we have such a big mitzvah to do this on Yom Tov, so therefore we should be thinking about doing that, meat and wine on Yom Tov. So why to eat dairy foods? Just the opposite of what a holiday should be. So the answers are brought down in several sources. One we find in the Mishnah Berurah. He brings down over there that the night that the Jews received the Torah on Har Sinai, so what happened was, right, that they had to go up there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu rushed them into receiving the Torah very quickly that night, and therefore they had no time afterwards to go back and to eat meat foods. Why is that? Because to eat meat foods, it requires preparation. You have to do shchita, you have to slaughter the animal, then you have to remove the fats, the hind fats from the animal, nikur. Then you have to do also melicha, you have to salt the meat in order to remove the blood from it. And then you have to cook it and everything, right? So this requires quite a bit of time. So therefore the Jews didn't have time to do all these things on the night of Shavuot because they were too busy with receiving the Torah. So therefore the only thing that they had left to eat was dairy foods. And also there's another reason, which is that actually the day that the Torah was received, that particular Shavuot, it was Shabbat. So therefore on Shabbat you cannot cook. So they had no way, after receiving the Torah that day, now to cook meat on Shabbat. How can you do such a thing like that, right? It wasn't a regular Yom Tov, so therefore they couldn't cook. They also had another problem, which is brought down there, which is the kelim. The utensils that they were using also were not kosher. What does that mean? That they had to use utensils which are, after they received the Torah, now they had the mitzvah to use utensils which are for meat and not just right, any other food. Also for kosher meat, for kosher food. So what happened was that before they received the Torah, they didn't really have the mitzvah of eating kosher yet. All the mitzvot that they had to do regarding preparing the meat, they didn't have that. Once they received the Torah now, all of a sudden they shifted into a different mode. Now there was a kosher mode all of a sudden, right? Now everything has to be kosher. But they didn't have time now to go and kosher the utensils that they were using. This was also another reason why they didn't want to use these utensils as well. And therefore, right, eating meat on that day, on that night anyway, was really virtually impossible. So therefore, they sufficed to eat dairy foods. And this is exactly why we eat dairy foods on Shavuot to commemorate this event that occurred at that time, the first Shavuot that we had. There's also another book, Torah Ta'im, which brings down, Baba Metzia, he brings down there a different reason why the Jews eat dairy foods on Shavuot. He says there that when the Torah was given on Chag Shavuot, so came the angels and actually accused, right, the Jews. They said, they shouldn't be the ones to receive the Torah. We should be the ones. We're pure, we're clean, we don't do sins. We deserve the Torah more than the Jews do. That's what they claimed. So what happened was that Kadosh Baruch Hu told them, you want to receive the Torah instead of the Jews, huh? Well, let's look into your records and see how you performed regarding the Torah. So what happened was, he reminded them about that episode when Avraham Avinu just had his Brit Milah. They had the circumcision. So the angels came to visit him. There was 3 angels that came there to visit him, and he fed them a meal. So what did he do? He fed them dairy, and he also fed them meat as well. Tongue, right? It was tongue, yes. So he fed them both these things, and these angels did a big no-no, right? They made a big blunder. What does that mean? They ate those things together. They were not particular to eat one after the other, to wait a little bit, whatever it is, to wash their mouth, to clean their mouth, to clean their hands. They were not particular. They just slobbered over everything. They ate everything together. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu reminded them about that. He said, "Oh, you angels, you say you're more worthy of the Torah than the Jewish people. But we see that when you had a chance to fulfill the Torah, that time that you visited Avraham Avinu, so what happened was that you didn't fulfill the Torah regarding eating meat and milk together. You ate everything together, and therefore now you cannot claim that you are worthy to receive the Torah. You're sinners. Right? You actually did sins, right? Regarding meat and milk, eating meat and milk together. So therefore now they were silenced. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to give the Torah to the Jewish people because of this accusation. So therefore, to commemorate this whole event that occurred, we eat dairy foods. Why is that? Because the custom is like this, right? The proper custom to do, by the way. Proper custom is to eat first dairy after a person makes kiddush, whether it's at night or in the morning. After you make kiddush, you can have something dairy, some cheesecake, some blintzes, whatever it is you want to have, right? Some sour cream. And then what happens is that a person should also have a meat meal. Why? Because, as we said, right, the Gemara says that there is no simcha without having meat and wine. So how can a person pass that up on Yom Tov? So therefore, the proper custom, right, according to many poskim, the proper thing to do is to have first, after the kiddush, to have dairy, and then either you wait a little while or you do some cleaning your mouth. What does that mean? How do you clean your mouth? You can do by drinking some water and eating some food, some bread or whatever it is, anything like that. So that will clean out your mouth, and now you'll be ready. And also, if you ate with your hands, you should wash your hands as well, and then you'll be ready to have meat. So therefore, right, we demonstrate that Kadosh Baruch Hu. Those angels, who visited Avraham Avinu, they didn't keep the Torah to have meat and milk separately, but we do. First we eat the milk, and then we eat the meat after. So therefore, right, we're righteous, more righteous than those guys who visited Avraham Avinu. So therefore, right, this is like a demonstration that we deserve the Torah. So therefore, right, there is a custom like this. But nevertheless, as we said, a person should not pass up eating also meat and also wine. Why? Because this is the essence of Yom Tov. The Simcha of Yom Tov is through that, especially for the men. So what does that mean? That a person should have, right, the poskim say, we find in the Shulchan Aruch, that it should be red meat, right? Either beef or lamb, whatever, something like that, right? Not just to have chicken and fowl, because chicken and fowl, turkey, whatever, that's not the real simcha. According to the Gemara, the real simcha is the beef or the lamb, right? The red meat. So therefore, a person should be makpid if he's able to have that. If he has a problem with health reasons, he can have also just poultry. Okay, fine. But if he's able to have red meat and he enjoys having that, so definitely he should have that Yom Tov. He should not pass that up. And having dairy is just a custom, So how can we take away the essence of the Yom Tov and not have meat and just have dairy to make a custom override the mitzvah of the Torah to be sameach on Yom Tov, right? That wouldn't be possible. So therefore, Rabbi, this is the right way to do it. And even though there is in the Zohar Kadosh we find that a person shouldn't eat meat and milk during the same hour. That means that he should wait 1 hour between one and the other. Nevertheless, the Shulchan Aruch does not paskin like that. Doesn't rule like that. It says the Shulchan Aruch that a person right after he has some dairy, he can have meat right after, as long as we said, right, he cleans out his mouth, as we mentioned. If his hands are also soiled, he should clean his hands as well. Once he did that, he's allowed to have immediately after the dairy. He's allowed to have meat. But if he had meat, he has to wait 6 hours. So therefore, right, a person shouldn't have the meat first. Obviously, that's going to ruin everything, right? That's the idea. So therefore, right, if a person wants to do like the Shulchan Aruch, like most people do, he doesn't have to wait an hour after eating the dairy to eat the meat. Doesn't have to wait an hour. But if he wants to be a big Hasid, he wants to be a big pious man, saint, so he can wait an hour, like the Zohar Kadosh. If he wants to be machmir, very good. I respect people like that. So if he wants to wait an hour, let him first have a kiddush, and then wait an hour, and then have the meat meal afterwards, after an hour or so, whatever. After that, right? That's also fine. Whatever it is that they want to do, right? Like that's perfect. Also, another question is asked over time regarding making a barbecue on Yom Tov, because Shavuot, nice holiday. Maybe a person wants to make a barbecue there, right? To have some roasted meat. People like that. It's a big attraction for everybody. The whole family enjoys it. So the question is, are you allowed to make a barbecue on Yom Tov? And the answer is, Rabbi, that we actually find the Gemara in Masechet Betzah in Chaf Gimel Amud Aleph. We find over there that yes, you're allowed to make a barbecue. There's no problem to make. What does that mean, barbecue? We're talking about coals, charcoals, right? You make a charcoal barbecue. There, the Masechet Betzah says explicitly that you're allowed to do that. So really, the truth is that that's not really a big chidush. It's not a big novel idea. Why? Because you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. Everybody knows that. As long as you transfer the fire, an existing fire, to another fire. So therefore, if a person wants to make a barbecue on Yom Tov, what does he do? He transfers the existing fire that he has, and he transfers it over to the coals, and he lights up the coals from the existing fire, and then it lights up. But what happens is, right, that what a person has to be careful about, though, regarding this, even though it's obviously, right, it's allowed to do that, to make a barbecue on Yom Tov, Shabbat's not allowed. But on Yom Tov it's allowed. You know why? Because even though sometimes he has to lower the flame as well. He starts to like fan the flame because it sometimes gets a little bit higher, and we don't want the meat to get burnt, right? We want it to get cooked nice and juicy, good, tasty, right? So therefore, the one who's doing the barbecue knows how to fan everything to make sure, right, that the flames are not too high, because if the flames are touching the meat, it's going to get burnt. It's going to become like a charcoal itself. Who wants to eat that, right? So nevertheless, right, even though on Yom Tov there is a prohibition to do kibui, to extinguish the fire, but nevertheless, right, since we're doing it in order that the meat should not get burnt, this is the whole idea over there. Because if we let the flame go too high, the meat will get burnt and it'll get ruined. So therefore, right, the rule is, as we find in the Igrot Moshe, Moshe Feinstein, he writes this. Also, we find the Chazon Ovadia, Yebi Omer, that in the books of Moran Rabbeinu, Maran Shalom, in Chelek Yom Tov, we find over there, he writes also, like Moshe Feinstein. And also, there are many other poskim who agree with that. Many others that agree that a person is allowed to lower the flame in order that the food should not get burnt. So therefore, a person needs to fan the flames of the barbecue in order that he should not get burnt. He's allowed to do that. This is a part of the ochel nefesh. It's a part of the cooking experience. So therefore, right, even though you're not allowed to extinguish on Yom Tov, but for the sake of cooking, for the sake of preparing your meat that it shouldn't get ruined, for that you're allowed to extinguish. The only problem is like this, right? Towards the end of the barbecue, you know what happens, right? The coals are still lit, they're still lighting, they're still burning. So now a person, obviously, right, once he finishes all the cooking, he's done everything, right, cooked everything already. So now he wants to extinguish the fire because, he wants to get rid of the smoke. He doesn't want the smoke. He doesn't want the smell. He doesn't want, maybe also there should be a hazard or whatever for the children to touch it. It's very hot. So the question is, what do you do then, right? The truth is that if a person doesn't need to extinguish those coals, he can just leave them going, right? He should. So there's no reason to extinguish them. Let them go out by themselves. Anyway, by the end of the cooking, they're already pretty weak as it is, right? So they're gonna pretty much go out. But if he's concerned about children, fire hazard, or maybe he's gonna start a fire also. But this is a very dangerous thing, by the way. When a person makes a fire, when he makes a barbecue, he has to make sure that, before he leaves that site. Let's say he went camping somewhere, he went to a forest, he went to a meadow. So you know what it is, right? That a lot of fires start because of things like that. People leave over barbecues which are not extinguished. So this is a very big dangerous thing. Can kill people, can burn down houses, God forbid, all kinds of things. So therefore, if a person is concerned about these kinds of things, that it can cause a fire or it can cause somebody to get injured, things like this, or the smoke very much is bothering him. So what should he do? Number one, he can bring a goy, right, to extinguish the flame, the barbecue. Why is that? Because extinguishing that barbecue is only prohibited from the rabbis. It's rabbinically prohibited. Why is that? Because we're not going to use those coals again for different cooking after that. We're going to throw them in the garbage, right, or whatever it is, right? We're not going to use them again. So since you're not using them again, right, the halacha is, right, says the Shulchan Aruch, that in case like that, extinguishing for not using again, this is only rabbinically prohibited. So therefore, it's Shavuot to Shavuot. It's like two rabbinical prohibitions. One is to extinguish the coals, and one is to tell a goy to do it. So therefore, in a case of great need like this, or hazard, so for sure a person can tell a goy to put it out. Also, if he doesn't have a goy there to put it out, whatever. So what can you do? You can also do it with a kil achariyat, with a shinui, with a different way to make a differentiation than the regular way. What does that mean? The regular way, I guess, would be he would take the water and put it in, throw it into the barbecue, and put it out like that, right? That's what people do, more or less, right? That's the idea. He takes water, throws it in there, he pours it in there, and the coals go out. So in order to make a differentiation, what should he do? Let's say, right, let him take a big bucket of water, whatever, something like that, and throw the coals in, overturn the barbecue, and throw the coals inside the water. So that will be like a different way. You're doing it in a different manner. So therefore, in a case like that, when there is a need to put them out, great need like that, as we mentioned, so therefore you can do it with a shinui, in a different way, and that would be also allowed to do. So therefore, Rabbatai, if a person wants to make a barbecue and they enjoy this on Yom Tov, doesn't matter which Yom Tov it is. It could be Shavuot, it could be Sukkot, it could be Pesach. Doesn't make any difference. On one condition, right? There shouldn't be Yom Tov and Shabbat together, obviously, right? If it's Yom Tov and Shabbat, how can you make a barbecue, right? You cannot cook on Shabbat. So therefore, it has to be only Yom Tov. That's the idea of a type. So whatever you do, right? Just make sure that you follow the rules that we delineated, and everything should be good. And make sure you don't make a fire hazard. Baruch Adonai leolam, amen, amen. Chazak u'baruch.